I've sat through more renewal conversations than I can count. For years, every single one followed the same script. How many seats do you need? How many did you use? Let's true it up and sign here. It was boring, but at that point, boring was good because boring meant predictable, and predictable is what an entire industry was built on. But lately, that script falls apart mid sentence because the question on the other side of the table has changed. It used to be how many of my people will log into this. Now it's what is the software actually going to do for me? That's not a small shift in wording. That one question is quietly dismantling the business model that $2 trillion of software was built upon. So today, let's talk about the death of the seat and why, if you sell software, you're either about to reprice or get repriced by somebody who already did. Welcome back to the SaaS Evolve podcast, where we track software getting torn down and rebuilt around AI in real time. Not the hype, not the tool of the week roundups, the structural signal, the thing that moved underneath the headline that tells you what's actually about to change. So here's the deal. Everyone else is reacting to the future. We're trying to hand it to you early. When the shift hits your category, you see it coming. You move first. Because in this game, there are only two kinds of companies: the ones who reprice, the ones who get repriced, and the show is for the first kind. So if you're a founder betting on the next 5 years, an exec with a board breathing down your neck for an AI strategy, or an operator who needs a play you can run Monday morning, you're in the right room. So this is SaaS Evolve podcast, and let's get right into it. So here's where we're headed today. I want to talk to you about what's actually happening in SaaS pricing right now. And I mean right now, this quarter, not in some keynote prediction about 2030. We're going to cover four things today. The first one is how we got here. And that's the beautifully simple assumption that per seat pricing was actually built on and why it worked for 20 years. Next, we're going to look at how AI quietly broke that assumption and why the old model now literally punishes vendors for building a better product. And three, the numbers, because this isn't just, a feeling, it's a measurable shift. And the data is honestly kind of staggering. And four, the part I care about most, what this does to what a software company actually even is. Because this was never really about pricing mechanics. It's about a promise. Now, before I conclude the episode, I'll give you a few hot takes. I'll probably get yelled at for in the comments. We'll look down the road at where this all ends up, and I'll leave you with one question every revenue, product, and customer leader should be asking themselves this week. So let's start at the beginning. For about 20 years, SaaS ran on one gorgeously simple idea. More value meant more people using the tool, so you charge by the head. And honestly, it was fairly elegant. It worked because humans did the work. Every workflow needed hands on keyboards. Every report, every ticket, every deal in the pipeline, a person sitting somewhere doing it inside your software. And every pair of hands needed a license. So the logic was fairly clean. The more your product mattered to a company, the more people they rolled it out to, and the more they paid. Value and headcount moved in the same direction. Sales teams could forecast it, finance teams could model it, and buyers understood it. Everybody knew the rules of the game. That alignment, value goes up, seats go up, revenue goes up. That's the quiet engine that built the entire SaaS economy. Every per seat darling you can name was riding that one assumption. And here's the thing about assumptions that worked for 20 years. You stop noticing their assumptions at all. They just become how software is priced, like gravity, like a law of nature. It was never a law of nature. It was a coincidence between value and labor. And that coincidence just ended. So here's what broke it. AI severed the link between value and headcount. Think about what AI agents and automation actually do. They let a smaller team produce the output that a bigger team produced 2 years ago. 5 people now ship what 15 used to. The work still gets done, arguably more of it faster, but it's not 15 humans logging in to do it anymore. Now run that through the per seat pricing model. Fewer humans means fewer seats, means the vendor gets paid less for delivering more. Let that land, because it's the whole episode in one sentence. Under per seat pricing, the better your product gets at automating work, the less your customer pays you for it. The model literally punishes the vendor for making the product better. That's not a bug you can patch. That's the foundation cracking. For 20 years, make the software so good it does the work for you was the entire mission. And now, if you're priced by the seat, succeeding at that mission shrinks your own revenue. Your incentives and your customers' incentives just split in half. You cannot survive long term inside a pricing model that bills you less the better you perform. Something has to give, and it's already giving. Now, I know what some of you are thinking listening to this. Okay, but this is the future thing, right? This is something that's happening in 5, 6, 7, 10 years. This is also, potentially just a couple of niche AI startups. Well, it's not. And the data has really changed my mind about this. Over the last quarter, we've certainly seen a lot of things change. But if you look at the data, it shows that it's currently happening. It was happening Q1, and now it's, you can see a marked change in here as we progress through Q2. Pure seat-based pricing dropped from 21% of SaaS companies to 15% in a single year. That's not a slow erosion. That's a model shedding a quarter of its share in 12 months. Atlassian just reported its first ever decline in enterprise seat counts. First ever. And not because customers left, because AI agents started absorbing the tasks that used to require dedicated humans sitting inside the tools. The seats didn't churn, the need for seats just evaporated. And IDC now forecasts that 70% of software vendors will move away from pure per seat models by 2028. 70% by 2028. That's not a trend, that's a migration. So that's a year and a half from now. And the companies that will win in a few years are the ones that will take the opportunity to reprice while it's still, technically optional at this point. And here's what makes this real instead of theoretical. The replacements already exist. You can go look at the pricing pages today for a lot of these companies. Intercom charges 99 cents per ticket that its AI actually resolves. Not per user, not per seat, per outcome. The problem gets solved, they get $1. It doesn't, they don't. HubSpot moved its customer agent to 50 cents per resolved conversation. Same logic, you're not paying for access to a tool, you're paying for a result that showed up. Now sit in the negotiation that creates. On one side of the table, $115 per seat per month for 50 seats. Do the math. That's a number with a lot of zeros. And the buyer is paying it whether those 50 people log in or not. On the other side, $1 per problem actually solved. That's not really a pricing comparison. Those two offers cannot coexist in the same room. The buyer hears pay me whether it works or not, next to pay me only when it works. And the per seat vendor doesn't lose the deal. The per seat vendor stops getting invited to the deal altogether. Okay, so if the seat is dying, what replaces it, you may ask? And do you have to blow up your whole pricing model overnight? And no, I'm not recommending that. A lot of companies aren't. If you go back to the HubSpot example, for those who know HubSpot, for those who know Atlassian, these are big companies with a lot of functionality within their tools. And they're only repricing what they can right now, which is basically just, the admin side of it where they can actually put an outcome to, what the user is actually using. We're not saying to blow up the entire thing. So pricing transitions are typically messy. And I think, when we moved to SaaS in general 20 years ago, software as a service where you started to pay a subscription as opposed to just, buying a CD, for example, or something on premise, that was pretty messy as well. It wasn't as disruptive as it is now. But the thing is, finance teams still have to forecast. Your CFO cannot run a company on, we'll get paid when things happen. Pure usage-based pricing tends to terrify a board for exactly that reason. There's no way to really forecast it. So the bridge that most companies are actually walking across is the hybrid. A stable base platform fee, so everybody can still forecast, plus usage or some outcome-based pricing components on top of that, where the AI does the heavy lifting, you keep the predictability, and you capture the value you create. And this is already the mainstream move. So if we look at the statistics once again, around 43% of SaaS companies price this way today. And that's projected to hit 61% by the end of the year, the majority this year. Now, important nuance, because the seed is not dead everywhere. Where human access itself is the value, think collaboration tools, communication tools, the stuff where the whole point is that the people are in there together, the seed still survives. It still makes sense. Charging per human for a product whose value is the humans, totally rational. But everywhere AI is doing the actual work, the seed is already a relic. It's just that some pricing pages haven't got the memo yet. Now, here's the part I think actually matters. And it's not the pricing mechanics, it's what this does to what a software company has to be. So stay with me on this one. So when you charge per seat, you're getting paid for access. You hand someone a login. Whether they use it well, badly, or never, you already got paid. Your job ended. Here are the keys. When you're charging per outcome, you're getting paid for performance. And suddenly your pricing page is a promise. You don't get to hide behind adoption metrics anymore. You can't show up to a renewal with a slide that says engagement is up 12%. Nobody really cares. You either resolved the ticket or you didn't. You sourced the lead or you didn't. You prevented the fraud or you didn't get paid. For a lot of companies, that's genuinely terrifying because it means your pricing model now exposes whether your product actually works. There's nowhere to hide at that point. But for the companies whose product does work, this is the single biggest opportunity in a decade because they've been carrying the customers who underused them and overpaid. And now they get the charge for the value they were quietly delivering the whole time. And the data backs this up in a way that I find, kind of beautiful. Companies using outcome-based components are seeing about 31% higher retention rates. 31%. And of course they are. If you think about it, it is really, really hard to churn from something that only charges you when it works. You're not paying for a tool you feel guilty about not using. You're paying for a result that already showed up. So why would you ever cancel that? Outcome-based pricing doesn't just change how you bill, it realigns you with the customers completely. And you only win when they win. That's not a pricing tactic. That's a different kind of company altogether. So when someone asks me, is the seat really dying? I don't think that's the interesting question anymore. The interesting question is when the buyers are agents, what does your pricing page promise them? Start designing for that now because it's closer than it looks. So let's pull this together, just as a bit of a summary of what we've chatted about in this episode. For the last 20 years, value and headcount moved together, and per seat pricing rode that wave perfectly. AI basically just broke the link, and now the old model pays vendors less for delivering more. The numbers say it's already happening. Pure seat-based pricing is shedding share fast. Even the giants are seeing seats decline, and the majority of SaaS is moving to hybrid this year. The replacements are live, and underneath all of it, the real change is that your pricing has become a promise. You get paid when it works, and only when it works. If you lead revenue, customer, or product right now, here's the thing I want you to sit with. The question is no longer whether this reaches your category. It will eventually. Or it already has, and you're feeling it in renewals that you can't quite explain. The only question really that matters is will you have repriced before a competitor reprices you? Because that's really the whole game at this point. Not who has the best features, it's who priced for a world that's actually arriving. See it before it lands, act while it's still a choice. Now that's again why the whole reason why this show exists is to sort of give you, if you're in the industry, whether you're a founder, executive, investor, a student that's aspiring to get into software and wondering if it's still worth it. I'm definitely a huge advocate of where SaaS is going. I think some people look at SaaS and they say, oh, SaaS is dead, it's going to be way different, there's no money left into it. They look at the market, they see that a lot of companies are being repriced. A lot of share value is going down because nobody really knows where it's going. But I think if you are staying close to what's actually happening, and you look at outcome-based pricing as a way, I think from both sides of it, where you can say from a vendor perspective, it's going to really focus the vendors to make sure that they're delivering the value to the users. And like I said before, just based on doing that, you're going to see your churn numbers go down drastically because there's no reason to churn if you are only charging by the outcome and you are providing those outcomes. So The only thing that, a lot of companies will have to make sure of is it's going to expose a lot of them. It's going to expose a lot of shelfware. It's going to expose a lot of companies who are basically selling, that subscription and not really following through, not having, a good customer success um, foundation within their organization. It's going to expose a lot of companies who are not providing, that support that's needed to carry out those outcomes. So I think a lot of companies are going to get a bit of a wake up call, but I think it is going to be a good inflection point for software to be better. So if you are listening to this and you're saying, well, is it still worth it to be a part of software? Should I just go to a trade or something? That's your choice, but I think it's going to be a great next 5 years for a lot of companies to really start creating value that they weren't forced to before. So again, if this channel, whether you listen to the podcast or you're kind of more into the shorter form videos that we have on here, if this is adding value to you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Definitely engage. We are trying to build a community. I'm going to have some more news about, community that we're building here for SaaS professionals. So make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're sharing it to anybody that you think needs to know about this stuff. And we are on LinkedIn as well, just to have a different format of, we're going to do a bit more of I believe we'll have a newsletter up there pretty soon on the SaaS Evolve LinkedIn channel, and we'll do some interviews and workshops through LinkedIn. I think the idea is we're not trying to be the loudest voice in the room on the future of SaaS. I think we're not trying to hype, things that may or may not happen. We are trying to sort of stay based and kind of keep it to where we think it's going and where the industry is going, so that if you are in the industry, you kind of have a steady voice guiding you through the transition. So, yeah, I'm Rob. This is SaaS Evolved, and I'll see you in the next one.